presentation. I'm your moderator this evening. I'd first like to follow Gary's thank you to everyone. Thank you so much for coming. A brief word on our format tonight. After I give a brief introduction, each of our speakers will come to the microphone to deliver a short introduction about their perspectives and experiences. This will be followed by our keynote speech from our guest of honor, Alan Chambers. Directly following his speech, we will open the floor to our audience for questions directed to Alan or any of our panelists. So we invite you to be directly involved in tonight's program and to participate in this particular format. So please do save your questions for the end, and please do direct them specifically to the speaker you wish to have answer it. We hope, with your support, we can build a movement of inclusion here at NMSU. Now some brief notes on inclusion. To speak of inclusion or building inclusion, we must be aware that we are at the same moment speaking of exclusion. Why else would we need inclusion unless exclusion was present and someone was being left out? Thus, to speak of inclusion and community building is always born of a kind of pain despite its intention of being of love or equity or some other worthwhile goal. And whatever the intention might have been of a young man who spoke here a few weeks ago, some of his sentiments certainly had the effect and feeling of exclusion towards much of the LGBT community here on campus. To have the opinion, for instance, that homosexuality is a lifestyle and a sin that leads to death, and to refer to homosexuals as sexually broken, certainly may not make gay and lesbian peoples feel included in this community. But I assure you that I'm not here to rehash or even to condemn what was a very hurtful experience for many of us. What I'm trying to explore and to open up is this idea of inclusion, which I hope all of you are as interested in establishing on campus as I am and all of our panelists are. So I invite all of you to be cognizant of the feelings of others as we talk about difficult matters which are at their heart matters of inclusion. I want to offer two notions of inclusion that might be valuable to keep in mind as we move through our panelists' presentations and into our discussion and beyond. And the first is the idea of vulnerability. On a very basic level, to move towards inclusion, we have to be open. And we have to be brave enough to move beyond our own loss that comes with exclusion and allow ourselves to be moved by other human beings and towards them. We cannot be afraid of the mysterious other who, like us, remains equally in fear and disgust in our reflection. We must not be afraid, and we must move to recognize where they stand and why, in recognition of how our positions have led to theirs and how theirs have led to ours, thus becoming cognizant of our underlying humanity and of the conditions which have shaped us all, albeit perhaps in very different and unequal ways. And these inequalities are matters we must not be afraid to address and intervene in, as well as they often shape and determine how and why exclusion takes shape. In light of this realization of a shared humanity, we must allow ourselves to be compelled towards action, towards a radical empathy and abandonment of our own position, and towards the extension and inclusion of all. It was one of our panelists who helped me move towards this position when just a couple short weeks ago, I, like many in our community, did feel a deep sense of pain and loss at the idea that a speaker could come to this campus with the exclusionary sentiments that he had. This panelist said to me, in many ways we've been living in a bubble. This campus is great and in many ways we are protected, but there are still people out there who feel this way towards us, and it will not help pretending that they are not there. Now, this was difficult to hear, as I'm sure many wish this situation would just go away. However, in many ways, we are benefited to have to face these discriminatory realities, as it allows us the opportunities to be moved towards inclusionary action by their sentiments, as harmful as they may be. This is an important moment to be brave and to build an inclusionary community, to show who we are, rather than to be sucked into reactionary and detrimental positions, allowing others' definitions of who we should be to shape us. So I sincerely hope we will not let this incident break our LGBT community on campus and our inclusionary spirit. And if you were thinking of leaving, as I know the thought certainly entered my head, I came from teaching at colleges in Michigan and Ohio to attend NMSU here. So I left the Bible Belt for this. I left death threats and harassment from administrators who told me I couldn't be the gender that I am just to deal with this halfway across the country. I really hope you will stay and work with us towards inclusion. Everyone on this stage here is a resource for you in some form, and our community is strong. The second piece I think is necessary to inclusion is autonomy. Now, I've used the term LGBT community a couple times already, and it's a misleading one. The LGBTQ umbrella features a number of positions, all unique and very different, with a variety of relationships and antagonisms between these positions. In fact, we are so different that each position probably has as much in common with straight and cisgender people than it does with the other positions in the acronym. However, as we come together and have united in our collective experience of being other, this has been beneficial and problematic for a number of reasons. As a transgender woman, I can say quite poignantly that inclusion is as much a question and necessity in the LGBTQ community as in the greater culture. So no one should feel like they are particularly being called out as the excluder. And no one should feel like there's not much improvement still left to be achieved in their own communities. Inclusion might be better conceptualized as something to be moved towards rather than a permanent position that one can attain, acquiring and requiring much care and effort. Even in cultures which move to include like ours, we must look at autonomy and question, well, now we may have included someone or some group, but on whose terms are they going to be included? And if the answer is on our terms, we have not really included them. In America, we love the great liberal multicultural myth of the melting pot. But what happens when you throw a bunch of ingredients into a pot and turn up the heat? They boil together and you lose all of the individual flavors. If you painted Easter eggs as a child, you probably had this experience, thinking you were quite a creative genius when you threw all the colors from the cake together. But no, it's just brown now. Good one, Timmy. So I want to challenge everyone to not only be empathetic towards the ways other people are like you, they fear, they cry, they eat, they go to the bathroom, but to the ways they are different in their cultures and beliefs, and to respect their positions. And this is a college, so how about to listen sometimes, rather than speaking? I know that's hard in our culture. But learn from others, pushing your own ideas and perceptions, critiquing yourself, rather than simply judging others and trying to fit them into these narrow subject positions that we like to reduce the impressive, beautiful, and complex range of human ways of being into. So one, be vulnerable and open to the humanity of others, allowing yourselves to be moved by them and towards them. And two, allow others to speak for themselves and define their own identities, cultures, and beliefs. If we can do both while maintaining respect, opening dialogues of shared concern for our campus, I think we will be in great shape, and our movement of inclusion for all peoples here at NMSU has truly begun. Thank you.